Ghost of Yotei's combat has a ton of depth, and after over 100 hours of combined playtime, I want to share some of the more advanced tips and tricks that we've discovered. From easy ways to kill bosses to special attacks you might not be using, and way more, there's a ton to go over, so let's get into it. And while there are some very powerful weapon-specific techniques, one that will be useful for any weapon is Shifting Strike, which you find in the attack section of the Onryo tree. Once it's unlocked, you are able to perform a unique heavy attack if you press the button right after swapping weapons. And this unique attack is quite a bit faster than your regular heavy attack, but it does chain into the rest of your regular heavy combo if you keep pressing the button. Since you are encouraged to switch often to counter the weapon your enemy is wielding, you'll actually trigger Shifting Strike more often than you might think, so make sure to open with a heavy attack when you switch, giving you a faster start to your combo to counter an enemy. Up next I want to talk about one of the strongest weapons in your arsenal, which is Fear. Yes, terrifying enemies can be incredibly useful, doubly so if you're wearing an upgraded version of the starting Onryo armor, which increases in level as you keep following the main story missions. This armor gives you new ways to trigger the frighten effect and also a massive damage boost against any enemy that is frightened. A regular brute will die with just 2 strikes from a weapon when they are terrified if you are wearing this armor, and they of course can't do anything back as they shiver with fear. The armor also causes spirit attack and throwing weapon kills to have a chance to trigger the terrify effect, so it's super easy to apply consistently. Your Onryo's Howl also terrifies the enemy you use it against, as well as most nearby opponents, so don't forget to use that when it becomes available too. In fact, if you have this skill available during a boss fight, you can absolutely demolish them in a couple of seconds. Again, terrified enemies won't put up a fight, so you can just hack away with multiple full combos that all benefit from the extra damage caused by the Onryo armor. By the time they'll recover, a boss will only have a sliver of health remaining, and that is if they are lucky. If you'd rather ignore enemy defenses, you can of course use the Oni's Fire Ghost tool, because enemies cannot block you if your weapon is on fire. It's great with any weapon type, and it looks especially cool with the Odachi, but there's one specific weapon that pairs extremely well with this tool, and that is the Kusarigama. Your charged heavy attack swings the ball and chain around in a wide arc, and if said ball is also on fire, the attack is completely unblockable and has a chance to ignite enemies it hits. Upgrading it to a full 3-hit combo is of course even better, and makes this combination of tool and weapon probably the best option for dealing with groups of enemies quickly. The only downside is of course that you have to charge the attack, which can be a problem if you get overwhelmed, but there is a solution for that too. By unlocking the Evasive Maul skill, you can perform a sweeping attack with the ball and chain straight out of a dodge roll. While the skill description is a bit vague on this, you don't actually have to dodge an attack to trigger the move. You simply have to perform a roll and then follow up with a heavy attack immediately after. Now this attack cannot chain into a 3-hit combo, so if you have the space to charge, that's the better option. But if you get overwhelmed, you can reposition and immediately strike multiple enemies to give yourself some breathing room. And yes, as you can see, you can make this tactic even better with the Flame Mastery charm, as this adds a fire explosion to heavy attacks that burns nearby enemies, making this AoE combo even stronger. You get that from winning 2 rounds of Zenny Hajiki in the Ishikari market. We talked about that charm and way more amazing charms in a recent video, so I'll leave a link to it in the video description. And fun fact, like we also mentioned in that video, Oni's Fire also works on thrown weapons, as do many of those charms, so make sure to use those to your full advantage too. Thrown weapons in general are very strong, so I want to go over those, and real quick, if you enjoyed the video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to not miss our next Ghost of Yotei video. Now even though you have a ton of useful tools in your arsenal, you can also use your enemy's weapons to your advantage by disarming them. There are actually many ways in which you can disarm an enemy or cause them to drop their weapon when killed, starting with triggering a standoff. While the game does not specifically state this, most enemies killed from a standoff will drop their weapon on the ground, meaning you can immediately grab it off the ground and damage or take out an additional target. With the disarm counter skill unlocked, countering a yellow glint attack with a charged heavy attack will make an enemy drop their weapon on the ground as well. However, both of those options are kind of situational, so if you want to be in control of when weapons are dropping, there are 2 things you should do. One is unlock the Dance of Wrath from the Mythic Tale over here in Oshima Coast, as this move now also makes enemies drop their weapons, meaning you can potentially disarm 3 foes with this attack. And from another Mythic Tale over here on the map, you get the Spider Lily armor that gives enemies a chance to drop their weapon when killed. I discussed both of those in recent videos, so link to those will be in the description. But when combined, these techniques will create a ton of throwable weapons for you to use, and remember that there are also just weapons lying around in enemy camps that you are able to throw too. do. The various criminals you'll chase after for Kojiro's bounty board are some of the strongest opponents you'll face. They effectively function as a dual opponent with their own health bar, but that also means that at certain intervals of health you'll trigger this clash animation that restores some of your spirit. While that is certainly nice, it does mean you can't simply burst a target down by dealing consistent damage, as at some point your combo will be interrupted with this clash. There is one workaround for this however, and that is using a ranged weapon. Once you have the Tanegashima rifle unlocked and upgraded, you'll be able to deal massive damage from afar with just a couple of shots and easily take out the bounty target without being interrupted. Since rifle shots are very easy to land, you actually want to use your concentration to slow down time as you reload to make sure you don't get attacked during the lengthy animation. If an opponent does close the distance and gets into melee, you can use a smoke bomb to disengage, finish your reload and continue firing, but it rarely takes more than 2 shots before their health bar has completely disappeared. And if you're wondering how to get that rifle, we went over it in our best weapons and abilities video that I'll link to in the video description. Now, while you generally want to switch weapons to counter whatever your enemy is using, there is one weapon that offers an exception to this rule. It does take a bit of skill, but in the right hands, the Odachi could be the only weapon you need, as thanks to a couple of special abilities, it is able to counter literally any weapon in the game. The main thing is that while the Odachi is slow, it hits very hard, so while it is mainly a counter to brute enemies, it builds decent stagger on regular foes as well. You also don't have to worry about these slow attacks being interrupted thanks to 2 skills, Unstoppable Strikes and Unstoppable Force. The first makes you uninterruptible during an attack, and it also reduces any damage you take while swinging. The second makes it so that the damage you take while swinging the Odachi becomes recoverable health. This is marked as grayed out health on your HUD, and dealing damage allows you to restore that part of your health bar. While it does not literally make you unstoppable, the fact that you can restore health significantly decreases the risk of attacking with the slow Odachi. But while those skills are very useful, they're not the ones that turn the Odachi into a counter against every enemy. No, that would be the Indomitable counter, which adds a special timed effect to your bulwark stance shown by this glint that appears shortly after you begin holding the triangle button. If an enemy hits you as the glint appears, you immediately counter an incoming attack with a parry and a powerful slash, very similar to a parry counter. However, this special bulwark counter can be used to counter any incoming attack, including the ones with a red marker that normally have to be dodged. That means that this move is the only one that can counter any attack in the game, as it also works on the blue glint attacks that you otherwise have to parry. The tricky bit is the timing though, as it can take a while to get the hang of it. Where you would press the parry button as an attack hits you, if you want to counter with the bulwark stance, you have to start holding the button a bit earlier, so basically immediately when an enemy starts their swing. I tried to see if there were ways to improve the window for this counter, but unfortunately buffs like the one from the Bounty Master armor do not seem to apply to the Indomitable counter skill. So the best advice I can give you is to start practicing as early as possible by unlocking the skill quickly, because once you do manage to master it, the Odachi is likely the only weapon you'll ever need. Check out the best charms video by clicking on the screen, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more Ghost of Yotei content. I will see you soon, goodbye.